Hi, everyone. The Art for Everyone podcast, where we have an artist, his friends, and kind of like some stalker that just kind of listens and watches and try to figure out what's going on with these artists and their artist talk. Thank you guys for being here today. Michael, you want to talk about our first guest today?
Yeah, so today we have Aubrianna Robinson joining us, who is the creator of our logo here on the podcast. So I've thrown her name out a little bit, but I'm like, hey, we want to get her on. So Aubrianna, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Oh, yeah. So I'm Aubrianna Robinson, my government name. And then, as we were just talking about before playing, people just call me Aubrey. Or online, which is Aubrey in blob form, which is Blobbery. So that's how
I call you Blobbery a lot when I'm actually talking about you, but I'm like, am I supposed to call her Blobbery in person?
No, that's totally fine. Because if anything, that makes it a lot easier. I'll have people either say Aubrey in public, and I'll be like, okay, that's someone knows me personally. And then I'll hear people say Blobbery, and then I'm like, oh, someone knows me online. Okay, and then that like kind of helps me. I also
Ooh.
So whatever. But I am a cartoonist. I am a teacher. I am a graphic novelist, I guess, artist. And then I do animations as well. So like anything cartoony and like illustrative and silly, I love doing that kind of stuff. And right now I'm actually in the process of, for the first time, we'll see how tough this is going to be, but right now I'm in the process of getting a comic officially published. So I'm trying to find agent. So that's a whole thing, but that's what I'm doing right now. Other than that, I'm also at Balboa Park, and I'm doing Cartoon Yourself on the weekends, which is like caricatures, except I'm not making fun of people. I'm like drawing you as my cartoon style. Or as like The Simpsons, anime, like Rick and Morty, like anything that exists, and it's totally fun. So,
How much does that cost usually?
So that at the park, I just do pay what you want, and then I also want to do that on stream. I have been streaming where I'll just like stream like me doing artwork, but then on the side it says like pay what you want, and then I will draw whatever you want. However that works, I haven't figured it out, but I'm starting to. So
I think that's a brilliant strategy too, because I've found that sometimes when you do that, people actually pay more than if you were to list the price, because they don't want to make you feel bad. But it's like, hey, you know, sometimes just a little bit of money is better than not getting the opportunity. That's how I feel. I had someone contact me this morning and they were like, well, how much is this piece? And I said, well, it's this much, but if you're working with a different budget, let me know, because it's better for me to just kind of make it a win-win.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
So is it before, though, that you start the work, or is it after that you figure out the price?
Me?
Yeah.
Like with them paying, do they tell you ahead of time, like, okay, I'm going to pay you this, or do they wait till the end?
Sometimes. There are times where it's, okay, so I started doing the pay what you want Cartoon Yourself stuff in 2020. It was like November of 2020, so it was kind of slow, but it wasn't dead. And then it wasn't crazy until after the vaccine, so probably like March of 2021-ish. But because I've been doing it for a while, there are tells of certain people. So most of the time I won't know, and that's fine. And like I tell them, like because I'll get a lot of people who will ask, well, how, like, what's the average today? And I'll be like, I have no idea. I don't look at it, because I don't. I just, at the end, I just tally up the total, and then that's it. But there are times where people will pay with cash, and then sometimes I know. Other times they'll just say like, oh, is 20 okay, or something. So there are times where I know, and then there are times where I don't know. And then there are times where things are absolutely ridiculous. So it's kind of like, technically I can't complain, because it is pay what you want. But there are times where I'm just like, humans, why? I literally had someone do the pay what you want, literally, where they said, oh, pay what you want? I have some rocks. And I'm like, that, no. Like, no. If they were like children, because sometimes kids will pay for their own things, and then I'll be like, okay, that's fine, that's cute. Like, I've gotten like little trinkets and stuff. But this was like an adult, and I watched them walk over and find some rocks, and then they walked back and were like, I have some rocks, and I was like, no, you buffoon. So,
wait, is this before you're gonna paint, or is it after?
It was before. So that's fine. And then there are other times where like I'll draw something and then they'll be like, oh, I just have $1, and I'll be like, it hurts, but okay, that's great. So I mean, that's just the freelancer life. There are times where a really good payment will happen, and then there are times where a really okay payment will happen. Either way, I just look at it as resume material. So like no matter what job you get, it's resume material. So that's cool.
Yeah, and if you're out there and you're just sitting there, some work is better than no work. And when people see someone sitting there and the work being done, it may kind of prompt more business. But like with the rock thing, it brings up the barter system, and the barter system for artists can be absolutely fantastic if it is mutually beneficial in terms of like the services. Because I tell people all the time, like if it's a product or service that I would use, like when I go to the farmer's market, if somebody at the farmer's market, and I visit them all the time, says, hey, you know, I want one of your paintings and I'll give you this value of our product, I am so inclined to barter with people.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Which, I mean, it's crazy that art itself is, it's like it's acceptable to barter with art, as crazy as that is. Anything that's like a freelance work, it's very like normal to be like changing the price for something. If something's sold at a store, then it's kind of like, okay, that's the set price. But if you're a freelancer, then it's like, well, I can do 30, and then, you know, normally it's 50, or I could do this. And so it's weird, but I guess that's a whole other conversation for that type of thing. So
one of the things that I try to do with that, like today, when I'm working deals with people, one of the things that I'll do is I'll be like, okay, well, you know, I'll go from this price and I'll come down 20%, but would you consider leaving me a review on Google and on Facebook, or sharing it in a post? Do you ever do anything like that where you try to kind of incentivize or prompt them to share your stuff? Because you are out in public, and so that visibility or the word of mouth can be so tremendously beneficial.
I feel like that is businessman talk, and I am not a businessman, so I don't do any of that kind of stuff.
You are, so you do good business.
I'm not. I know. I wish I took a business class. I wish I knew something about business and marketing. I'm just kind of like winging it, and if it works, it works.
I remember I found you because I run through Balboa Park all the time, and
I
told you, I'm like, hey, I want you to do our logo, and you actually tried to talk me out of doing our logo.
I did, because I was like, it's not gonna look good. Even now, I look at it and I'm like, it doesn't look good. But that's also just the life of an artist. You know what I mean?
I love it. But I know that feeling of like the criticism of your own work, and the more that you see it, the more you're like, well, I see what that could be or what I could have done, as opposed to what it is.
Oh yeah, definitely. That is the life. But that's actually a huge thing with working at the park, is because I've been doing it for a couple years. First of all, I talk to so many people from all over the place because a lot of people are visiting. And I've gotten, okay, it's nuts. It's nuts. It is absolutely nuts. So where do I start? I met, first of all, you. I have met like best friends in my entire life from just working at the park. I have made many jobs from working at the park. I have met so many people from working at the park. Like it's crazy just sitting there and putting yourself out there and having people see you all the time. It does a lot for you. Like I do illustrations for some old guy's book. And so like, that's cool. That's a resume material. I have that on my website. And then there was someone who was doing, it was just some guy who was standing there with a little clipboard, and he was doing a self-defense class. And it was funny because my mom and I were just talking about doing self-defense. So I was talking to the guy, I signed up. My mom then said, never mind, I don't want to do it, but you can do it with your sister. And I said, cool. Ended up having a class with that guy for a while. And then when my boyfriend finally moved here, he came and joined the classes. And then the guy was like, hey, I like your boyfriend. He's cool. And then we all started hanging out. And then the self-defense guy has a wife. And now we're all just really super best friends. And we hang out all the time. And that's super nice. And then another guy asked me to do, it was really boring, but another guy asked me to do some sort of like accurate, I don't know, he was making an invention and he wanted someone to draw like the pieces of everything. So it's like that's a job that I got on top of it. Obviously, I met you. There is the Comic Artists of San Diego like group as well, and they will show up and they go to Balboa Park and they meet a bunch of people. There are times where I'll be out in public and people will be like, hey, you're the person from the park. And I'm like, cool. There are times where I'm out in public and people will be like, hey, I know you from TikTok. And I'm like, cool. So it's weird. There, like, even recently, last weekend, when I was there were people who were like, I was here years ago and you're still here. That's so cool. Let's get another drawing. And I'm like, okay. So it is nuts. I know being an artist, it's like, there's so many percentages on how to quote unquote succeed. And one of them is putting yourself out there. And another one is who you know. So it's crazy how much, I guess, like I've changed and how much opportunity I've had just by sitting outside in the park for like 18 hours a day for 3 days a week. So that's pretty cool. I'm sure you probably relate.
I mean, yeah, even if you're an introvert, when you do these types of things, it creates this sociability. And I think that you created or found a great place to be because Balboa Park is so beautiful. It's so well trafficked. There's always stuff going on there. And as a comic and caricature artist, you're right by the Comic-Con Museum too. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I feel like you really kind of picked up on a good thing. But I want to talk about, because I just learned this past year what the term busker means. Now, are you technically a busker? Okay.
Yes.
And can you tell us like what the definition of a busker is?
Yes, so I can do it. I figured it out. Is that a vendor is someone who is selling something that has a price. So if you go to a farmer's market, for example, and someone has like jars of jelly, or they have honey, or they have clothing, or whatever it is, and it is a already made thing that they are selling with a set price, that's a vendor. You are basically like a walking store. A busker is somebody who just performs with hopes that they get tips. But the thing that they are doing is technically already free. So if you're walking through the park and you're listening to someone playing music, you're getting that music for free, and it's up to you to pay a tip. So it's technically the difference is like one has set price and they're from a store, and the other one is you don't really have a set price. It's just like by tip.
Can you guys enunciate there? Are you saying a buster?
Like busker.
Yeah, busker with a K-E-R.
Oh, busker. I was like a buster. I mean, like.
I mean,
like,
yeah. Why not? You can call it that too.
There's a song a long time ago. He's a buster or something like that. I don't know.
Not the same thing.
Maybe.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, what? Oh, okay.
But I didn't know that term until this past year because my roommate helps manage some of the farmers markets. Yep. She kept coming home and talking about the buskers, and I'm like, what's a busker? I had never heard that term before, even though it's something that I encountered. And I mean, I've myself have done music festivals and things like that where I have been performing for free.
Yeah.
But basically had a tip jar out for people to leave tips. Now, I have to say, I have done several events where I have live painted. I have live painted some big things. I don't think that I ever got more than like $2 in tips. So I would be a terrible busker. Like I've been doing something wrong because I was not getting any money. Like I would be starving. I think.
Well, it also depends on where you're doing it. Like, are you doing it all day? Are you doing it for 20 minutes? Are you doing it at a place where people are? Are you doing it on the weekday versus the weekend? So that's a whole other thing too.
I mean, in my case, it was for like a multi-day music festival with a big bucket out that says like, hey, I'm an artist, support local artists. You know, this is how I make my living. It had my Venmo on it, my PayPal on it. And I'd be doing like a big mural, something like that, encouraging people to take pictures, encouraging people to talk to me. So I'm like, in theory, I feel like I should be at least getting some burrito money here.
Maybe you just sucked. No, just kidding.
No, seriously, I'm wondering.
No, it really does depend on the people. People are just weird. Like they just see stuff and they say, "Oh, this is for free," and then they're like, "Cool," and then they don't think anything of it. Other times it's where your bucket was it visible? Other times
there's a psychology to it, to what works in like, because there are certain things that stimulate people to be like, "Oh, I should pay for this," versus, "Oh, okay, that's a thing. I'm going to keep walking."
Yeah, I don't know. It's a whole other thing. And right now, actually, I don't know what it is. It could just be a San Diego thing. I don't know. But it's actually been getting like working at the park right now. Every day I'm coming home like I don't know. I don't think I can do this anymore type of thing. Like it's really fun. I love working out there. I love that my office is outside and I'm talking to all these people and I'm drawing cartoons and I'm making people like happy and stuff like that. But I don't know. I think people are maybe they're back at work, so not that many people are visiting. It could be the economy. It could be not many people have money for tips. Maybe people aren't paying attention. I have no idea. It was super busy and it was doing really well for a few years, but towards the end of 2023, like it was getting like I was just making minimum wage at that point, which is like that's still cool. So it's weird to complain about it. But it's also like, well, then I could just be getting a job somewhere. You know what I mean?
So you have a permit?
You don't need a permit for Balboa Park. That's a whole thing.
As a busker, but I think if you were selling, if you were actually selling like a finished product, like a vendor, you wouldn't you? Is that kind of the?
Yeah, as of right now, it changes all the time. But as of right now, you can only be a performer, a show act, religious, or a musician. So I'm technically a performer because I'm making the art right before your very eyes type of thing. Same with the people who do henna, like they're making the henna like right in front of you. What happened recently was that there were people who were selling jewelry. And for a while they said, okay, you can sell jewelry as long as you're making the jewelry like while you're sitting there type of thing. But what happened was, and I don't want me spreading rumors, and I'm not spreading rumors because I'm just saying the facts. But people were buying things from Amazon and then saying that they handmade it. So then that became a tricky thing where it's like, technically it's handmade. How do we tell if they actually made it or if they didn't make it? And they couldn't figure it out. So now they just kicked out everybody who makes jewelry, which is lame because it was like, what? If you're a jewelry maker, whatever the term is for that, I'm sure there are specific tools and phrases that you can just ask the person and know if they actually made it or not. But I guess it's just easier for them to just kick everybody out. That was the most recent one. And then there are actually numbers on the ground right now around Balboa Park. So like that's the only places that you can set up. However, like I said, it changes. So in probably 1 month, everyone would just start setting up wherever they want. Jewelry people start coming back. So it's, I don't know, it's every single few, I guess like every like 3 months to 6 months, things start changing again. Which is like fine on some aspects, and then other aspects it gets really annoying because then you get people who abuse it, really. So
well, and they'll just come out and they'll just fine you too, won't they? Like an ordinance could have changed like overnight, you don't know about it, and they're like, oh, by the way, here you go, here's a fine.
Yeah. Someone that I know, he was a caricature, or is a caricature artist, and he was set up in a specific spot. Rangers came by and said, you can't set up here because you're like blocking something, and he wouldn't move. So he got a citation, which I think was like $600 or something. He tried to fight it, didn't work. And then the weekend after, someone was sitting there and the Rangers came by and just waved at that person. And the person just sat there and then it wasn't an issue. So
Rangers,
that's
I guess.
the life. That's the Busker life. So, yep. That's how it goes.
So I could, in theory, come out and I could like live paint out there, like do a piece maybe, but not to like bring out finished pieces with price tags on them. Probably.
Yeah. Because there are artists that do that there. They will be like, they'll have their pieces around them and then they'll be working on a piece while they're sitting there too. And they don't have prices on them because I don't think you're supposed to. But you could just say like, yeah, this is this much, and then they could buy it or not.
It's kind of just like finessing the system then. It's like you just got to finagle and work around the rules and the semantics of it. It's like, so I could in theory have pieces there people could buy, but I just need to at least be actively fulfilling the obligations of a busker and that I'm in the process of making something else there.
Yeah, you could do it. You could do it.
I may have to. I may have to. I don't want to take business away from you though. Like I don't want to, if anything, I would want to like work off of you and like so that we help each other.
Oh, okay. Well, it's up to you. because I am not a competitive person. I know that probably sounds like a lie, but it's not. Like, there are other cartoonists around. I'm fine with everybody else doing the same thing. Though, there are some other guys that get annoyed with the competition. Me, I'm just like, hey, we're all doing the same thing. We're all doing the same thing. Just don't be a jerk. Don't abuse it. Like, can we just be kind? You know what I mean? Kindness is really hard to find nowadays. Not even just in the art world, but just everywhere. And there was a day where there was another artist, someone I've never seen before, and they were trying to, this is like a year ago, and they were trying to find a place to set up. And I was like, oh, do you want me to move my tent over? So I like moved it over, and then she was like moving her stuff out. And I said, oh, do you need help with that? And then she just looked at me and she was like, you're new here, I can tell. And I was like, okay, sorry for being kind. That's weird now. What? So that's a whole other thing. Yeah. So that's why the comic that I'm working on right now, that I'm hoping to get published, is going to be about all of the beautiful strangers and weirdos and friends and everything else that I have met at the park, and all the situations that have happened, and like the rangers and everything. Because my gosh, there is enough for a book. So I want to make a book about it. So that's what I'm working on right now.
Aubrey, do you watch the Disney Channel?
I've seen Gravity Falls. That's it.
Okay. The only reason I said, because you're so animated. Like I remember there was like a thing like in your face and that kind of stuff. And like I remember seeing, what was it back in the day? They were talking about like a lot of like the and I don't know if it's just Disney or something like that, but a lot of it's the facial reactions, a lot of hand movements, kind of the gestures, that kind of stuff. And I was like, I wonder if the subconscious, if it's there or if it's just because you're always drawing, so your hands are always moving. Or
yeah, I just do that. You're not the first person to even say anything about that, because I'll have like my whole life I'll be talking and doing stuff, and then you get that like guy on the side who would be like watching me, and I'm like copying the same movements, and I'm like, it just feels right. It just feels good. You gotta use your whole body, I guess. Also, it's kind of funny in a way too, to kind of emphasize what I'm talking about by like putting my whole body into it. You know what I mean? So.
Well, I mean, there's a subconscious thing that happens, because I know there's stuff for myself, and I sometimes you watch people and you're kind of just like, okay, there's something they're doing right there. There's a reason behind it. You know, it's a twitch or something like that. But yeah.
Yeah, man, I took a communications class in high school, which at the time I was like, what the heck is that? I know how to speak. But then when I went to the class, it was about that. It was about talking in front of people. It was about not saying or while you're speaking. It was about remembering things. We had to go in front of the classroom, I think every week, and then say something that we were given. And you had to do it without saying You had to do it without looking away. You had to do it without using your hands. And that was so difficult. I said all the time. I used my hands all the time. So every time I do it and people bring it up, I just immediately I go back to that classroom, because it was so difficult. And I was in theater class at the same time. So how am I supposed to go to theater class and be super expressive and take a class where they're like, hey, don't be expressive at the same time? It's too tough. That's too tough.
I don't trust an artist that stands stiff and doesn't move their hands and arms. I mean, I do it because I'm an artist, but I also do it because I'm Italian. But I have so many conversations with people where I can tell that they are not following the conversation. They are following my arms. But I think with me, like, it's like my movements almost mirror or mimic my paintings of sorts. But it's like I am my art and my art is me. So, you know.
That's kind of cool, actually. Whoa.
I don't think you move your hands that much.
Are you kidding me? Like,
okay, anyone listening and watching this, go back to the YouTube channel and watch the last 10 episodes or the 10 episodes we had before this.
Well,
and count. Count.
To be fair.
Okay, go for it.
We can only see half his body. So
but look at you. Look at you. Now, if someone's watching right here, they can see your body. They saw your hands probably at least 30 times in this 24 minutes. I've seen Michael's hands probably twice, maybe 3 times.
Maybe he's doing it down
I think
there.
you're not paying attention. I think if you went back, you'd be like, holy shit.
We need a counter here. I'm going to call it out. Hey, okay, question. Okay, now, what do you think? What are your thoughts? Okay, this is going to be a deep topic for both of you guys. If both you guys were doing the drawings, right, and you say, okay, pay what you feel comfortable, do you think as a man, as a compared to a woman, right? If it was just you two, would they give more for the woman or more for the man?
That's a good question.
Go ahead. Answer the question, Michael.
I personally I think it comes down to the individual. Like, I wouldn't think as an artist that one would deserve more or that one would earn more, but then I have to step myself out of myself and into I think that there are people out there that might be inclined to give more to one versus the other. So here's the thing though, it like goes back to OnlyFans and me being on OnlyFans. I don't do as well, and I was having this conversation the other day, as some of the attractive women on there. I think that there are guys that would be inclined to just open up the wallet and give money to a woman. Whereas I think there are certain women that might be more inclined to give money to me for, different reasons. So I think that there's a lot of variables involved there. But that's a good question because I hadn't really thought about that.
I would say my answer, which is, first of all, to you, do I go off to what you were saying? No, I'm gonna say my thing. Anyway, I'm gonna answer your question, Vinny. So I think so. That is going to be my short answer. My long answer is, like I said, when I was working at the park, there are people who are very competitive. And there was a guy there, I don't even know what his name was, but he was another caricature artist. I don't think he's there anymore. And when I started, this goes into not only just like being like a busker, but also just like being a woman, I guess. And a part of me is like, don't talk about this. And then a part of me is like, why not? So yeah, there's been many times where I was treated differently just because I'm a woman. And then there were times where people will pay me more or pay me less depending on it. But I will say that there are definitely a lot of guys, and I get talked to by a lot of guys, and I'm not stupid. I know when they're just talking and being nice, and I know when they are not, because I've been doing it for so long, and there've been a lot of.
What did you think when I first approached you? Did you think I was full of shit, or that I was really an artist, or did you think I was just approaching you to talk to you?
So you walked up to me, shirt off.
That's how I run. What do you want me to find you some clothes?
Yeah. Shirt off, muscles on. And you were like, wow, you're another artist. I am a guy with a podcast. There have been a lot of guys like that. So then I'm like, well, I don't know if you even noticed, but there was part of me that was like, where's this conversation going to go? And then I realized you were absolutely genuine. And then I looked at your stuff and I was like, okay, cool. So I have no issue with, but there are people where I'm just like, ah! So yeah.
That's his pickup line though. I mean, that's his pickup line. Oh, hey, my shirt's off. I have a podcast. Can we talk more about it? Michael.
I don't date at all anymore. I don't do relationships. My only relationship is with my art. It is so liberating. Like, I was talking to a girl at the gym today, and it was just like me just trying to be a nice person. Like, I hold the door for people, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of times people are thinking like, oh, he's trying to hit on me. I'm not trying to hit on anybody. Like, I don't want anything. Yeah. I just want to be like, hi. Like, but I don't think people can believe that from me a lot of times.
It's very tough. You have to be self-aware. And that, first of all, yeah, it's like, knowing that, first of all, is like kind of cool. But I don't know you entirely, so I have no idea. But full circle, coming back to what I was going to say before. But you doing the OnlyFans thing, because you said, well, I don't know if women would pay for, stuff I'm doing. So why not make stuff for men or people who are gay or something? That's the thing, is like, you might be thinking, oh, I'm making art for this type of group of people. Like, there are times where I'm like, oh, this is totally for kids. I've made comics where I'm like, that's totally for kids. But the teenagers love it. Or the opposite, where I make stuff for teenagers and the kids love it. So
no, and you're right. And that is half my audience. Yeah. Like on OnlyFans, it is half guys, half women. And I actually had one guy message me because he said, I'm not able to see your content for some reason. Did you maybe block me because I'm a guy and you felt uncomfortable? And I said, no, not at all. I very much appreciate my male audience just as much as my female audience. I said, it's probably just a glitch. I really appreciate you reaching out. Let me send you some stickers for like the trouble. But no, I very much, and I recognize where I live. Like, I know that I run through Hillcrest, and like, I notice, when there's almost a traffic accident because people are looking at me crossing the street and I see who it is, like it's kind of an interesting thing. I pay attention to these things.
Okay, then perfect. So then that helps with I guess like demographic, if that's the right word, is it helps with that, where you're like, okay, what is gathering the most people? What are people liking the most, type of thing. I've noticed that on my Instagram, I'll be posting stuff that I'm like, this is the best. Oh, I want it everywhere. Everyone should see it. And it gets like, it's okay. And then there are times where I'll just draw something where I'm kind of like, oh, whatever, I'll post it. And then it gets like 1,000. And I'm like, why? Why does this? Okay, I guess people like this, I guess. Or maybe it was just luck. I have no idea. So that's a whole other thing where freelance artist, but you're also a social media artist, is trying to work with that type of thing. And OnlyFans, I think, counts as social media, I think.
No, it absolutely does. And I actually had a meeting with OnlyFans headquarters last week because I reached out and said, hey, I think that we can work together and I can find ways to promote you because I'm totally cool with breaking the rules and I'm fine with people judging me and I'm still happy to push you and we can find ways to change the stigma because it's like, yeah, you can be on there and you can do sex work. And I pass no judgment on sex workers because I work with several. We're going to have one on the podcast next week to talk about erotic art. But for me, I'm kind of trying to find the right balance because I think that what happened is when I initially signed up, some people were thinking that it was going to be like a hardcore porn, where I was kind of trying to find more of a balance of art and creativity, but expressive and marketing the physicality that I'm not really able to show. So I'm kind of just like trying to find my place right now. And I think that's caused some kind of confusion with the audience. Like the audience is up in the air because they're not really sure where I'm going to go with it. And I don't know that I'm sure where I'm going to go with it yet either. But no, I mean, OnlyFans is absolutely social media. And you're so right about like, I finish things and I'm like, oh, this is my quality work. People are going to respond to this. And that's the thing that is just fucking crickets. But when I do things that I'm just like, this is absolute bullshit. And people latch onto it. So what I found lately is like with me making the funny faces and stuff, or me doing things like, what's the secret to selling art? I have no fucking clue. Like me just doing like comedic things in audios that people can use. And I'm like, okay. Like I thought people were going to maybe be upset with the language and stuff. And not that I particularly care, but it's like, I don't want to alienate, the people that are supporting me. But I'm finding that people are actually responding that. So I might kind of lean into that a little bit too, because it really is just me being me and feeling liberated. But, and I think people can tell when you're kind of forcing things and when you're not being genuine. And so maybe that's just what people are looking for now in the social media world, is people that are actually being genuine as opposed to this polished bullshit of influencers.
Yeah. And like, it's good that you say that it's tough too, because it's social media. So everything you post is technically going to everyone or anyone.
Yeah.
But it's because of that, there is this, because I've noticed it in my students as well, is that a lot of people think you have to post something that's perfect. And which I've done that as well. There are times where I'll post something and I'm like, it didn't get 12 likes. Oh, I got to get rid of it. And then I have other people being like, stop deleting things. Like, it's fine. Just leave it up there. So right now I'm like, even as I'm working on stuff right now, and it's really tough, it's going to take a while, is doing stuff for yourself. That's very, very, very hard to do, especially nowadays when everything you do and everything you post has the hopes of it being popular, and it has the hopes of you getting followers, and it has the hopes of you getting popular and having followers, and then you get money, and then there's the hopes of, so it's really, really tough, because nowadays I think a lot of people are starting to lose that, hey, art is just, it could just be fun, it could just be for you. Like, you don't have to have followers. You don't have to, like, if you do, cool, that's a bonus. If you make money, cool, that's a bonus. But you can also just do it because you want to. You can do it so that you can try. It's tough because, so here's a thing that I say all the time. And Vinnie, you're not an artist, right?
Nope.
Okay. But you are a businessman, right? So when it comes to, I mean, art is a business as well. Every artist is their own business person. But everything you do, especially with anything creative, like writing, poetry, songwriting, like painting, anything visual with like cameras, filming, artwork, anything creative at all, that is a part of you. It is literally a part of you. You are taking your brain and you're using your hands or your feet or your body or whatever, and you are making something exist. It exists to you if it's in your head, but when you actually put it down, then it actually exists. So you're making something that is you. And if you are uncomfortable and if you are not confident, that's going to reflect in your work. To you, it's going to reflect. You're going to look at it like, even now when I was talking about the logo where I was like, oh, it's not good, I don't like it. It's like, that's my confidence shining through, because that's me. Like, I'm looking at me right there. When it goes to like posting on, oh wait, what were you going to say?
No, but saying you're giving yourself an out though, right? If I'm saying, right, I understand what you're saying, right? And I mean, if I say, okay, I draw this logo. Let's say I do the logo, right? And I'm saying, okay, oh my gosh, I like it, but there's this aspect of it, right? Yeah. But if compared to me saying, oh my gosh, I love it. This is perfection right here, right? Yeah. Now, if someone says that this logo is shitty, right? Yeah. The first avenue of it, I go, okay, yeah, that was that part of me. Maybe I could have done little things different. It would have been perfect. But if I said it's perfect and someone says shitty, it's going to hurt me even more, because now I'm like, this is my all. This is my top.
Well, and I didn't help you in that, because what I told you in terms of direction, because I had full faith that it would be exactly what it needed to be. And so I just said, you do you. I said, just maybe if you want to do like the Paint Hub shirt, because like that's my thing, maybe a little brush, maybe Vinnie with the balloon. But I was like, you just do you. Because you were like, well, my boyfriend does logos, you know, maybe he's better for this. And I said, no, I've seen you at the park. I trust you. I feel that you could encapsulate exactly what we're looking for. And so for me, what you came up with was perfect. But that can be difficult too sometimes when we are given that freedom and not a lot of direction. But I think that you also hit on another thing where I think it's really cool when I see a great artist and they post some work that is what they consider their okay work. Because to ever create a masterpiece, you have to make a lot of work that is not a masterpiece. And so I think that it's really important to allow yourself, or to initiate creating the okay work, because the sooner you start creating the okay work and the work, the sooner you can get to the good work and the great work. Yeah. So many people never get started because they're so afraid of not starting off at the great. But the sooner you get started with the other stuff, the sooner you can work your way up there.
Yes. And that's a huge thing. I say that to my students as well, where I mean, nowadays we have kids that have iPads and they have all the programs and they have everything. And a lot of my students who are like maybe under the age of 15, like so young, they will be using a tablet. Cool. That's fine. That's a whole other way of making art. But a lot of them are like, well, tablet's easier because if I make a mistake, I can just delete it. And I'm like, wow, great. Now you don't see your mistakes and you don't learn from them. That's not life. So that's why I'm like, it's important. You can do both. You can do both.
Do it in permanent marker.
Is it? I mean, okay, maybe it's not in the art thing, right? But I see stuff on like Instagram and like TikTok and that kind of stuff where it's like these young 20-year-olds saying, "Oh, I made $2 billion in basically flipping homes. I'm the greatest." Blah blah. And people try to follow this quote unquote fake person, right? But they go, "Oh my gosh, this person I want to be," right? And so you see a lot of that in that space, or even the real estate space. I mean. I see people that post, I go, that's such bullshit what they're talking about. That's not really is, right?
No, I see artists. Artists do that too. There's pages for young artists, and they're like, let me show you how to make 7 figures off of selling your art. And it's a load of fucking bullshit, because what works for one person is not going to work for another. And guess what? If you found this winning formula and you share it with everybody, guess what? It's no longer the winning formula. So it's just clickbait, because there may be some good things in there for you to funnel into kind of your repertoire, but it's a load of fucking bullshit. I will guarantee you. And let me save you the money right now. Drop me $3 so I can get a fucking burrito. And there you go. I saved you some money and you can help me out and we'll help each other.
So the honesty avenue of, right, of and I totally agree. I think you got to be honest. You got to be real. You got to show your imperfections, right? Because I lean more towards someone that shows the imperfection, that's doing something great, but shows the imperfections, right? Yeah. But there is a demographic, again, see it in the real estate space, that want to actually be with that perfection. I wonder if it's more so those people that want to be with perfection haven't really earned it yet or something like that, because there isn't going to be a demographic you're going to lose if you're showing your imperfections relative to a demographic you're going to lose if you just show basically your perfections, if that makes sense.
Vinny, I want you to do some videos of homes where you show all the imperfections of homes. Like, you know, the view here is kind of shit. And it shows like, you know, somebody like,
I've done that stuff, but no, I've seen this stuff where it's like, because I can look at everyone's numbers for a realtor, right? On the thing, and they'll post, they go, oh my gosh, I sold this many, this, blah, blah, blah. And I look it up because just, you know, sometimes I get bored and I look it up and I go, no, they haven't. They sold one deal. Like, what are you talking about? But it's like people eat it, hook, line, and sinker. And it's that balancing act, because I know there's people that want that, right? Compared to the people that want the real.
Well, I had somebody comment on one of my posts the other day, and I wasn't even posting anything negative. It was just like one of my joke posts. And they commented something like, oh, I thought that you were having gallery shows and that you were successful right now. Like, they were asking a genuine question. Like, they thought that I was giving the impression that I'm failing. And the art world is a funny thing because success means different things, and it doesn't always mean monetary success. Like, you can have shows as an artist, you could have licensing deals, but it doesn't mean that money's coming in and there's overhead, there's a lot of variables. Maybe you have a lot of expenses for shows and stuff like that. But I wasn't even at a point where I was saying or complaining about anything. It was just me kind of making jokes about, like, you know, what's the secret to selling art? I have no fucking, like, so it was me just kind of doing parody and having fun with the situation. Because the other thing is so much of my art comes from a dark place, comes from pain, comes from trauma. And so the way for me to manage that, and I think that this happens a lot of times with caricatures and cartoons, is we take that difficult stuff and then we add a little parody. We kind of like bring some levity to it so that it's more palatable and it's fun. Because, you know, I don't want to be in that dark place all the time. Sometimes I want to make a joke, and sometimes making a joke about things and making light of it and sharing the experiences of the troubles to get here, the journey, is kind of, I think.
But your persona it's like a stew, right? You're not basically doing all the negative, and you're not doing all the positive. You're basically giving a little bit of both. And people that might go, oh, you're always showing negative stuff, they're not looking at the full stew. They're just looking at a piece of it, right?
Yeah, you know, but it makes me ask the question, like, oh crap, am I kind of maybe getting to a point where I'm projecting myself as a negative person or doing so too much? Or like, I've even had certain conversations with some of my galleries that are more on the professional side in the sense of how they like to present themselves. And so they may not like that I wear shirts that say Paint Hub or please buy my art, I'm not built for OnlyFans, or that I do things that are joking. Or maybe my agency doesn't like that I'm working with OnlyFans, but maybe they don't know what I'm doing with OnlyFans. You know, people are always going to judge, but again, it kind of comes back to the very good point that I think that both of you have made, is that, you know, people are going to kind of view things from their own limited perspective, and they're only going to get a snapshot of things. And so ultimately we kind of have to be true to ourselves.
Yeah, that's where I was talking about for the confidence thing, is that like, your artwork will change depending on how you feel. So like, if you're working at an office, or if you're working at food service or something like that, the food will still come out the same, and the paperwork that you need to fill out will still be like finished. But artwork, it will fluctuate depending on how you feel. And I think that's the hardest part. A lot of people, like what you were saying before, is that they start out and they're like, I'm not the best already, guess I suck. And then they just never do it again. I always say it's good to try everything. And then the other thing too, that you were saying before, Vinny, where there are a lot of fake people online. That's very true. It's very good that you looked up that thing, because a lot of people don't look stuff up. They just hear someone say it and then they think, okay, that's true then. Okay, like trees are blue now, I guess, and they just don't look it up.
Yeah, then they feel bad the rest of the day, feeling like they're inferior or like not enough.
Yeah,
I used to use it in my one of my consults. I haven't used it forever, but I used to go. It's crazy how people do more research on the phone they're gonna buy compared to the realtor they're gonna use.
Yep.
I was like, I don't know.
Yeah. So, with that, I like watching and like listening to those videos on YouTube, and I guess mostly YouTube, of other artists being like, oh, here's the day in the life of an artist. Those are really fun, especially if it just shows like a person working on stuff while I'm working on stuff. That helps. However, there are some, actually every single one of them that I have watched so far is that they'll just drop a little pinch of something that makes me go, wait, hold on a second. Because a lot of them will be like, it's really hard to be an artist. I understand. Like, there's always a catch. And they're like, it's hard to be an artist, but like, here's what I did is that I just quit my job and I worked hard and now I make 6 figures. And you're like, cool, how'd you do that? And then they go through, and I've listened to one where someone will be like, so yeah, it's so fun to be like a freelance artist. And, you know, I had to work for my parents' business and then that's how I made money. Oh, there it is. There it is. Your family has a business. There it is. There it is. And then there's another one where someone said like, well, originally I was going to school that wasn't art and then I quit and then now I do art and it was really tough and the school I went to was Brown and I was like, oh, there it is. There it is. And then other people like I was in a meeting yesterday with very successful artists, not going to say their names, and they were like working for Disney and whatever, and I was like, how'd they get there? What? And then they're like, yeah, so we grew up in California and we went to Cal Arts, and I was like, oh, there it is. There it is. So a lot of it, like a lot of people who succeed, there's always a tiny catch. And I'm sure that there are actual people out there who have genuinely made it just by making it, whether it was working hard, whether it was meeting someone. I'm sure it happens. But that's why it's a cautionary tale not to believe everything, because there's always something. I mean, even with you, Michael, even with you, Vinny, even with me, there's probably something that people will see from us and be like, oh, well, you got money from this. So, and it's just like, first of all, you can never win. And also you can never lose. So you just do whatever you want. Just try it. I always say just anything that you want to do, just try it. If you fail, then you know that you failed. If it worked out, then it works out. But it's better than just sitting and being like, well, what if? Like, just do it. Then you don't have to spend the rest of your life being like, what if I did it? Like, just do it.
I think that's the key right there. Just do it, right? And also, too, the opportunities, right? We've all, I mean, everyone. I mean, there's an opportunity that's popped up for us, and it's on us if we're going to actually seize that moment, right? So the opportunity of, hey, I came across this great artist. They're willing to teach me, or they're willing to help me out. Do I want to do it? Or this, oh, they're going to teach me their business model. That, you know, I mean, we're going to have a cup of coffee. Am I actually going to do it? Right? I mean, like, there's opportunities around us. No matter, are you going to actually take advantage of it and do it? Yeah.
When you got my YouTube page, which is just like, hey, you know, I'm going through all the stuff right now, and I'm trying to figure it out. But sometimes I have no fucking clue. Even though I have success at times, there's times that I'm like, what the fuck is happening here? Like, am I going to be able to
do it? Yeah. But you're still doing it, and you have a podcast, and even if the podcast like doesn't work like 10 years from now, at least you did it. Then you can say like, oh yeah, I did try that back then, it didn't work, but now I'm on to the new thing. And that's where I'm at right now, is the park where it's like it was working and now I don't get paid very much, so now you go on to the next thing.
We haven't talked about it for a while, Michael. David Goggins, right? What Aubrey's talking about, it reminds me of what he was talking about at like looking at the pearly gates, seeing basically that list of all the stuff that I was supposed to be, and I never was.
Things that you could have done. Well, I mean, and that's why, like, Aubrey, you see, like every Saturday that you're out there, you see me fucking running by, and like it can be 20, well, not 20, it could be 45 degrees out, and I'm still out there running with the shirt off, and it's just like, I don't want to fucking do that shit, but like, I just got to do the shit I got to do. Like, it's run day, so what do we do on run day? We run. And every day is art day. Every day is business day. Every day is putting in the work. And so ultimately, that is the real secret. If you want to make it, you have to be relentless. Be willing to do whatever it takes. You have to know your reason for doing things. And when things get hard, you have to keep going, because most people will quit. And if you do not quit, you can make it. And so like when the economy got hit this year, and I had to look at things and be like, well, I don't have any money coming in. Like, should I go get another job? And you and I talked about this. I said, fuck it. No, I'm not going to start at the bottom of another company somewhere getting minimum wage, beginning at day one, when I can work my ass off, flip a painting for 20 grand on any given day, and make far more money than I ever would working for somebody else. So if I need to potentially die on my shield, I will die on my shield. But I feel like that's the reason I'm going to be okay, is because I am willing to burn the bridges and never look back. But most people just aren't willing to put themselves in that position of being uncomfortable.
And a lot of people have, which, I mean, that goes into what you were talking about before, Vinny, where a lot of people have a kind of skewed idea of what success is anyway. Is that I work a ton of jobs. And a lot of people think to succeed as an artist, you have to have just one job and you're good. And you don't have to. You can succeed as someone who works at Walmart and you do art on the side. You can succeed as someone who does a few commissions and your like full-time job, or you have a ton of part-time jobs like I do, or you do what you do, which is you just paint and you sell it and you have your podcast and everything else. You could be someone who sells houses and then you go home and you write a poem or something. So like having the dream job is not always going to be perfect. And you might actually be in a place where you're totally okay. And just because it's not like grand to you, you're fine. Like it's okay.
It's not perfect, but it's perfect for you.
Exactly. And there is a version of you out there that's looking at who you are right now, hoping to be there. And I feel like that's going to be you for the whole rest of your life, is that you're thinking, well, what if? So that's why it's like, try it. If it works, cool. If it doesn't, cool. You just go on to the next thing. It's really, really scary. And like what you were saying just now, Michael, where it's like you have to work on it and you have to go for it and just do it. Sometimes you can work on it and do it and have some help. So like I have a Discord group where it's a ton of artists, all different levels, all different types. Some people do it as a passion. Some people do it as a hobby. Some people do it every once in a while. And I have my group there that has monthly challenges. And if you feel like doing it, cool. If you don't feel like doing the monthly challenge, that's fine too. It's just optional. And it's there to kind of like help you out. And sometimes being in a group of other people who are struggling with like just finishing the work, it helps because you're all like dealing with that. So maybe finding a friend or having some sort of schedule or a reminder on your phone to tell yourself like, okay, I have to do this thing. Having someone to just look at your work. It could be a family member and be like, hey, I want to have a drawing done next week. Can you make sure you check up on me next week? Type of thing.
Accountability.
So there's a ton of different ways. Like the way that you're thinking, if you think that's only one way to succeed or to do something, think of all the other ways. And even when I'm like teaching my students how to draw, I'm like, yeah, in your head, you might be thinking, here's how the picture is going to look. Draw the picture 7 different ways now. And then you might come up with like the 7th one actually is your favorite way of drawing the thing. So it's fine. Like you don't have to worry. And I say that, and we're all saying that, even though like a part of us in the back of our head is like, but I worry. And it's like, that's fine. Like worrying is a part of it. And then you just,
that's a normal part of it.
It's normal. It's totally fine. Like everybody's struggling. Even the people that you're like looking at and being like, wow, I wish I could be them. They're also struggling. They're also kind of not happy sometimes. It happens. It's fine. I think a huge thing is just being happy. Just find what makes you happy. And don't find like, well, it'll make me happy because this other person wants me to do it. Like, you have to find what genuinely makes you happy. And that's going to be scary. In 2020, because that's when I started doing the caricatures. And so a lot of people were laid off. A lot of people were not working, whatever. And this guy came up to me and he was just talking to me. And he said that he was working at a place for like 25 years or something. And now that he doesn't have a job, he's now like, well, maybe I might get back into painting. So he was, I guess, like going on different Zooms on like how to be a businessman, how to succeed. He said a lot of them were like how to succeed. And he said out of all the ones that he joined, which I think were about like 12, 11 of them, how to succeed was make money, have a wife, have a house, invest in something, put something down for something, like live in San Diego, like live in LA, live in New York, like here's how to succeed, here's how to make a business. And a lot of them were like that. And out of all of them, one of them said success equals happiness. And then he was like, true, because you could be living in your car, and if you're happy with living in your car, then it doesn't matter what other people say. You could be working at Walmart, and if you love your job at Walmart, because a lot of people say like Walmart or McDonald's is like the worst jobs. So it's like, if you're enjoying where you live and where you work, then you've succeeded. Then it doesn't matter. Like if you're having fun and you're happy, that's all that matters. If you are not having fun, but you think, well, maybe one day, maybe it's time to not do that anymore. Like, maybe one day has happened a few days, so now it's time to go on to the next thing, and that's totally okay. Like, that is totally fine. And if you're someone, because I was this person, if you're someone who's judging someone's life because it's not how you think they should be doing, stop it. Because you're not helping that person. Like, trust me, I know, because I've done that to people in the past and I feel really bad about it. So it's like, just let people be happy. Let them do
what if the person's living in their hoarder house and they're living in filth, they're pooping in a bucket.
Yeah.
And they're happy about it.
It doesn't matter. If they're happy, if that's their idea of happiness, then I mean, success for the individual.
However, with that, it is scientifically proven that anybody who is a hoarder and they're pooping in a bucket is not happy. So
I don't know. I'm pretty happy right now.
Yeah. No. Like, I'm fine with this. This is good for me. I
totally agree with what you're saying. And I mean, going off the topic, whatever. What if someone doesn't know better, right? I mean, what if someone doesn't know what is possible, right? I mean, and they think this is their level of happiness because that's what they deserve, right? And you're trying to show them there's more to it. There's other avenues.
Yep.
I mean,
that kind of goes to my journey too. It's like, you don't know what you know until you know it. And so for so long, I wanted to do art as a full-time thing, but I tried to do the balance. And I told myself, when I have X dollars, I will go do that. And then I moved further along in my career, so to speak, or in theory. Yeah. And yet 15 years later, I seem to be further away from my dream than ever before. And so at that point, I had to kind of just say, you know what? I'm fucking miserable. I'm at the point that I'm willing to give up on life. And so I said, you know what? If I'm at the point that I'm willing to give up on life and I have ultimately essentially failed, why not take a chance, just balls to the wall, go for everything that I want, step off the cliff, so to speak. Yep. And so I quit the job and I went all in. And although I had done the art in conjunction with the job for a long time and I had done pretty well, I found that when I quit the job and was able to give a little extra time like that, say I was giving 90% before, being able to finally give 100%, that extra 10%, a lot of times is the difference. So when it's like this is your only route, this is your only choice, you can only move forward and you just have to figure out how to make it work. It kind of changes things. But I also have to go back to what Aubrey said of that some people would rather have a job and do this for fun and not feel the pressure. And that is okay. Some people would like to just do this for a hobby. Some people may never have been interested in art before, but maybe they were in the military and they have PTSD and they just finally pick up a brush and do a little painting and they find that it's very therapeutic and it helps with their healing journey. That's beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that. You have succeeded. Yep. So it's whatever you want to make of it, wherever you want to take it, there are different paths. And that's why you can't have this is the way to success, because we all have different goals, and all different goals, there's going to be a different journey and a different trajectory to get there. And the other thing is all these people talk about, well, here's the path to success. Well, I don't want to be like everybody else. And so if I don't want to be like everybody else, I'm going to have to deviate from that. But I do want to point out, we had a couple questions or comments for Aubrey. So Ronnie has said, talk about it, Aubrey, and just mentioned they aren't happy. So just commenting on some of the things we've been talking about. And then Alex.
I didn't know there was a chat.
Yeah. We have people engaging here. This is the most engagement we've had. So people are feeling the passion, the fire. And then Alex Acosta said, hi, Aubrey. I work weekends at the Big Kitchen on Grape Street. Judy the Beauty has been kind enough to let me set up my drawing table with my own tip jar during the breaks. So congratulations, Alex. That's
cool. I like the Big Kitchen. I went there for the first time, I think like 2 weeks ago or something. And I was like, okay, this is cool. It actually reminded me of the East Coast. Because I feel like there was a few places like that over there. And I was like, interesting. It's very artistic. So
what is it? I'm not familiar with it.
So best way I can describe it is kind of like 70s hippie dad type of feel of a cafe. So you'll see what I'm talking about when you go there. And I think that they're like totally fine with it. There's like a lot of peace signs everywhere. They have like John Lennon on the walls. There's a bunch of paintings and everything all over the walls, which is another thing. Change the subject real quick. That's another thing. So luckily I'm seeing you guys right now, and like Vinnie, you have your nice pretty things on the wall, and then like Michael, you have your artwork on the wall. I have my stuff on the wall. Not to judge, but I'm gonna judge. What is up with people who have nothing on their walls? That's a huge thing. That is a huge thing, especially if you're a creative. How could you have nothing on your walls? How could you not have any inspiration? So if anybody is watching this, you have to have something. You have to have something on your walls to inspire you. If you are laying in bed and you were looking at the same thing before bed and there's nothing there, that's not going to help you. What are you talking about? If you that will help you out so much. If you're trying to come up with something and you're looking at stuff while you're walking around, subconsciously that's going to show up in your work, the stuff that you're looking at. So please do it. Also, for people who are like super depressed, they can't sleep, they're stressed when they sleep, whatever, don't do work in your bed. Like, don't do work in your bedroom. It's hard to do that if you're like in a studio, especially here in the city. So it's like, don't sit on your bed when you're doing work, when you're studying, when you're doing your taxes, when you're writing papers. Don't do any of that. And move your bed every once in a while. Sometimes you just shift it this way, so your head is somewhere different, and that should help you sleep. And that's a huge thing with artists, is that they don't sleep and they don't go outside, and you have to do those two things. You have to
shift your bed. Is that a real thing?
You just gotta move it. You just gotta, instead of like your head being like in this corner, just like move it over. Now your head's in that corner.
Is that a real thing, or are you making this up? I'm believing you, hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
If you're lying.
Listen, if I'm lying, then I'm lying. But like, I don't know. It could be true. I'm sure I heard that somewhere. But like, where you are sleeping, if you like have lived in the same spot your whole life and you go to sleep sad in the same spot with your head looking in the same exact area, it's going to be tough for your brain to do anything else, because sadness is such a huge emotion. So if you move your head over, it's not going to like change everything. You're not going to like fall asleep and then be like, that was the best sleep ever. It's just going to be like, it's a change of scenery.
Well,
you have to move things around.
It could be I guess it could technically be a trigger, right? Like, have you heard of Michael, we talked about Dr. Joe Dispenza?
No? Vaguely remember. I'm still recovering from a TBI, so brain.
Oh, you're fine. But his whole idea is that basically we're kind of like a computer program, and like when we do something, this basis makes us do this thing and that thing. So maybe, I guess, if you had your bed move somewhere else, you would kind of almost like kind of rework that program, I guess.
No, I think that there's absolute truth to that. And I think that you hit on a few things there, Aubrey. Okay, so God's honest truth. The reason I have art all over my walls is functionality. I need a place to store my shit. But if I did not need to, I have to say that I might like a little less on the walls, a little more minimalistic, because sometimes my brain just needs to stop and rest. Because one of the things that I deal with is that I used to have a studio that was separate from my bedroom. But cost of living in San Diego, nobody can afford to live here because it's $2,500 for a motherfucking studio.
Yeah.
And you have to have 5 roommates and 6 jobs and, 4 OnlyFans pages. I now have
4 OnlyFans pages. What would you do with the different ones? Is it like
every body part?
Tiers.
You got the
every body part.
Toes.
If you want the hardcore stuff, you're paying the premium prices.
Oh, so it works down. So soft to hard. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, good.
We have the G, we have the G-rated version, and then we move all the way up into the stuff on the hub. But
before I forget, we glazed over one of the most important things. You have a comic book coming out. So can we talk about that before this podcast ends? I'm really curious about the comic book. Sorry.
Okay. So the comic that I'm making right now is about the park. So how to do it, which when I succeed, I will officially say how I did it, because right now I'm just like watching YouTubers and like talking to people that I know and how they did it to try to help me out. So the comic that I'm making right now is going to be about a compilation of all the things and all the people that I've met at the park, at Balboa Park, because there is a lot. But there's also a B plot happening behind it, because when I started, I don't know how old I was. It was 2020. So it wasn't that long ago. Early 20s. So I would say, unfortunately, being a woman working by myself as an artist at the park, there's a lot that I'm sure other people probably have not dealt with before. And one of them is being like sort of talked down to, taken advantage of, people looking at you kind of like you're little. And I mean, like, based on how I wear some stuff too, some people might think of me differently. A lot of people think I'm still in high school because of how I look and whatever. So all of that tied is this B plot, which is how I grew as a person, so, or like as a woman, and how I stood up for myself. My resolution for 2023 was to learn boundaries and to stick up for myself. Because you get a lot of people. The title of the comic is, as of right now, because it might change depending on like the agent or what they say, it is, "Will you marry my son?" Because someone asked me if I could marry their son my first year of working there. And of course, at first, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to, unfortunately, is at first I was, oh, like I never said no. It was always like, well, I have a boyfriend already, or I'm already looking over here, or well, that's okay. Like it was never just like, no, why would I want to do that? Why would I do that? Like I'll turn around and be like, this guy just wants me to date his son. Like, but why couldn't I just say it to their face? I don't understand. So it was a few months long of this guy being like, okay, I found a place. we're gonna move there with my family, and you're gonna marry my son, and then you're gonna live there, and we're gonna have dinner, and I was just, this whole plan was being made, and I didn't want to do it. Finally, one day, I just eventually was like, I'm saying no. And then he was like, oh, and then he left me alone. But apparently I'm not the only one, because there was a lot of people that that like a lot of my customers, a lot of women that said he also asked them if he can marry their son. What a crazy story. He's married now, so he found someone, as crazy as that is. So that's the title of it. And
okay, wait. Okay, how often was he talking to you about basically marrying his son?
He was another vendor there, so I saw him every weekend, and then it was just like every day there's just like a new thing that came up on top of it. And instead of me just saying no from the beginning, I was like, oh, that's okay.
Was it
like, it wasn't like a joke? It was like there was a tone of, or at least an underlying serious tone to it?
It was very serious, especially from other women saying like, yeah, they asked him too. And then now I see, and he has a wife now. So I'm like, is
he Indian or Asian descent, like arranged marriage kind of thing? Because I actually have a client that had an arranged marriage.
So. Yeah,
huh?
I'm going to guess so.
Okay.
That's a good example of why I was like, okay, I need to learn boundaries. I need to like not do this. I've had guys sit down. I had like this one guy sit down when I first started, and he just later was like, this job is beneath you. You should work for me. And like just talking, and the stupid me was like, haha, LOL. I'm just gonna pretend and I didn't hear that. I'm just gonna keep talking.
I mean, what do you
and
really
nowadays, it happens all the time. Like I said in earlier of this conversation, is that another caricature artist came up, and he was like upset that I was another caricature artist who was a woman. And he came over, and listen, my stuff is regular printer paper and Sharpie. I don't have any of that fancy stuff because it's pay what you want. I do it in 2 minutes. It's super easy. I just like to have fun with it. There are professional caricature guys that will do the whole thing, and they'll paint it, and they'll color it, and they'll make it on nice paper, and they'll fold it up for you, whatever. I don't do that. It's just nice and easy. I get a lot of kids and dogs and babies. They can't stay. And then also the fun part is like, because it's black and white, they can color it. So whatever. So this guy comes up, another caricature guy. He came up and he said, what kind of paper is that? I said, it's just regular printer paper. He said, what kind of markers is that? I said, just regular Sharpies. And he goes, no, come over to me. Come see what I'm doing. And I'm like, okay. So I walk over, and he's like, sit down, use my tools, use my paper. And I was just like, I've used a pastel piece of chalk before. Like, I know what this is. He's like, go ahead. So I was like, I drew a line, and he's like, I'm just trying to help you. When I was starting out, people didn't help me. And, I know how it is when you're first starting out. I'm just trying to help you. You're going to like the customers are going to be happy with you if you know what you're doing, because it shows that you don't know what you're doing, and like all this stuff. And for some reason, stupid me was like, well, that's okay. I know what I'm doing. It's okay. And that's why this year I was like, no, none of that. No more, not doing that ever again. And that's happened beginning of this year. Another vendor who's still there came up and told me how I should be working, which is crazy because he was a painter. He doesn't do character. He was just selling his paintings. And he came up and was like, you know, I see you and you don't talk to people. You're not like really engaging. And what I do when I show up is I go around and I say hi to everyone, and then I sit down and I have my business, and
go fucking do that.
And after he was done everything, I was like, I am not you. I will not live like you. I have my way of doing it, and you have your way of doing it. And he was like, yeah, but I don't get it. I don't like how you're doing it. And I said, okay. And I just stared at him. And then he was like, well, I'm just trying to help you. And I said, I don't need help. And then he was just like, well, I'm just trying to help you. And it was just, it felt great. First of all, it felt great for me to finally just like straight face, eyes, and be like, leave me alone.
But do you think there's something they could have said it differently to change how you perceive it? Because like I always have this idea, right? That basically the difference between basically a creeper and basically a romantic gesture is how attractive you think the person is, right? So is there like a way that the person could have done something, or that would have been like, okay, that was a nice gesture on their part. It wasn't really the creeper kind of way. You know what I'm saying?
If a person is not asking for help, why are you going and helping them, first of all? And then second of all, like I said, I've been doing it for a while, so you can tell sometimes. And if he's just genuinely going up and being like, hey, I don't like this, whatever. First of all, no, because it's like, I'm doing my own thing. If there have been times where people will be like, oh, you should have this, and that might help you out. And I'd be like, that's a cool idea. Cool. And then there's like that guy who came up and was like, you're here with your pretty outfits and your cute face, and you think that you can just get everything because of that. But I'm just telling you, your business tactic is wrong. And I'm like, okay, so you're just projecting how you are feeling about how I'm. Okay, fine, great. You go over there and do your thing. And it really bothered me that the next day when I saw him, I went up to him, which I never do because confrontation was so tough. Even now, sometimes it is. And I went up to him and I was like, I don't like what you said. And I don't think what you did was right. I'm not going to take your advice. And it was really scary. But then afterwards, I was like, okay, that's really cool. And then from there, I'm able to like now use it when I need it and not use it when I don't need it. And someone's actually being genuine. So that's why it's like the comic is not only like growing and having to set those boundaries, especially as a woman, unfortunately, but also just the crazy weirdos, the cool guys, and all the events and stuff that happen at the park. Like it is just, there's a lot. So I think that's a really good start, because I do have other comics where, like I think someone in the chat mentioned it. I have a webcomic that's called Tig Bitty Girlfriend. It's just a silly thing. That's my like, I'm not doing this for other people. It's just for fun. And it's just for fun. So it's like, if people like it, cool. If they don't, then that's cool too. Like, it's just for me so that I can let myself know if I'm able to make a webcomic with a schedule, because the scheduling part as an artist is really difficult. So it's like, that's just for me. But a lot of people like it. And I've made other comics, especially in college, where it's like my own characters that I've made up. But because I don't know how to publish yet, and I don't know the process yet, I'm going to start with this comic, which I think would be more entertaining, if anything. Because when I tell people these stories, like, they're always, even my students, all ages, they're like, wait, what? He asked you to marry his son? Like, what? What did you do? So that's why I'm like, okay, I think this is a good comic to start, because it's entertaining. A lot of people like it. And it's about my life. So it's not something I'm making up, because sometimes writing is really difficult because it's something that you're making up. And people think that they can change it and give you advice. But when it's just something that happened to me, it's kind of like, oh, this is factual.
Will the original creepy Michael be in it when he runs up to you sweaty with his shirt off and asks you to basically draw? Is he going to be in it?
Yes. I'm definitely going to put Michael in it, because he was one of the, not weirdos, but he was one of the friends, if you will, that I met there, where it's like, that's part of the, wow, I set up here and I was able to meet this other artist who wants to do things for other artists and help other artists. And then I got onto his podcast and we talked about stuff. Like, that's cool.
What was the transition though? I mean, because let's look at it like from like the outside looking in, right? Okay, and I know I'm picking on you, Michael, but so a guy runs up to you, right, with his shirt off, right, and he's like, "Hey, I want you to draw my logo," right? And then he goes, "Oh, I'm an artist too. I can show you some things," right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then when did the transition of this guy's a damn creeper?
I don't think we hit the transition yet. I think she still thinks that sometimes when I run through.
No. So, it wasn't like all at once. So I saw him. He came up and like I said, when he first came up, he like, I backed up. I was like, okay, guy in a no shirt coming up and like saying hi or whatever. So you have to be a little bit careful. I'm like, I will be civil with you. I'm not going to immediately be like, wow, hi. I'm just like I was, how I used to be. So when he came up and he was like, oh, this is so cool. I think he asked me like, just like, oh, how do you set up here? What are you doing? And like, how much is it? Okay, that's kind of cool. And I was like, it's just normal questions that people would ask. And then he said, well, I'm an artist too. So it's like, yes, I've gotten that before, where people would be like, I also have a business and I want you to do the artwork and I want you to blah, blah, and I think we would work really well together. I have no money, but it would be great if you, and it's like, so that's what I'm like, I'm already expecting that. And that's the thing, is like, that comes with experience. And that's the tough part, especially if you're someone just starting out. You don't know if something is safe or not until you've had that experience. So with him, when he was like, oh, I'm an artist too, and whatever, at first I'm like, okay, cool, I guess. And then, he showed me his Instagram and he's like, here's what I do and whatever. And I was like, okay. And then when he left, it was like quick. He said everything and he left. And then I looked at his Instagram and then I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. Like, this guy actually does art. And the thing that I saw about it was the passion that was behind it. And that was what got me to be like, okay, that's cool. Because there are people who, like, there's a lot of amateur artists that they come up and they say hi and whatever. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with it.
Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, and I'll see their artwork and I'll be like, okay, cool, like, great, you have a thing. And then there's people who have a passion for it. So that's why when I saw Michael's stuff, I was like, oh, this guy's posting all the time. I don't know everything about you. I don't know your backstory or everything, but it's like, I can tell that you have a passion and you're going for it. Even if you are at like the end of your string, even if you are at the edge of the cliff, like you still have a passion for it. So I was like, that is inspirational to me. So that's cool. And then he came back another time and said, oh, I'm thinking of doing a podcast. Would you do the logo? And I said, no. And he said, well, I really like your stuff, so you should. And I said, And then he was like, well, I said, I'll just do a sketch and you can see if you like it. And he was like, okay. And then I did the sketch and he liked it. So I was like, okay. So, and then that's where it went. And then now I just know Michael as Michael and I know Vinnie as Vinnie. So it's like,
well, I just trusted you. So, I mean, you could have drawn a pile of dicks and I would have been like, okay, well, that's the logo.
like,
It's all, as someone commented here, everything, art is subjective, right? So it could have been a pile of dicks, and that's how she saw it, and that's why she drew that.
So I have to back up a little bit, because bear in mind, when I do barrel through Balboa Park and the museum, so the thing is I always go up and I touch the wall there, so I'm always amped up, and I'm always cracked out with my pre-workout. So I'm sure that from the flip side, it probably is interesting when I come barreling down through Balboa Park, but I am very self-conscious. I have my issues with body dysmorphia. So I very much pay attention when you drew me. I'm like, well, how do my arms look? Do I need to put on some weight? Do I need to bulk?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just how that goes into the confidence thing of just like how you see you. And because of that, that's why I do the cartoon yourself stuff at the park. Because when I was in college, that's when I started doing like caricatures, and they were just like caricatures, like real looking people, but I got a lot of that, and not a lot of people like how they look. So I would draw someone and they would be like, can you not like make me fat, or can you not like draw my wrinkles, or can you not? And I'm like, then who am I drawing? So then that's why I was like, all right, cartoon yourself. I will make you look cute. Like I'll just make your eyes big, and then maybe that's just my art style. Like, it's just easier for me, easier for you. People always like it. I don't think I've had one person say that they didn't like it since I've started the cartoon yourself stuff. So I'm like, cool. At least not to my face. So we will see.
Well, and one of the things that I really like about you is that you do your work. Like, you have your setup, you go do your park thing. You're like, okay, I'm going to make some money this way. But you kind of balance it out by making sure, and this is very important for artists, that you do the things that you want to do. Because it's one thing, if you're okay with doing the commercial side and doing something that is prescribed to you, like a formula, I have to do this all the time. Mm-hmm. If you're okay with that, then that's fine. But a lot of us, we have other things we want to do. And so you found a way to do the things you want to do, but to supplement and make the life possible, by balancing it with this other thing too. And I think that that is one thing that is very important for artists, and something to point out is that you can find ways to make the work you want to do while finding parallel ways to grow your skills and to push yourself further.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, if it doesn't work doing this, then just try the next thing. That's like the coolest thing about art, is that it's not just one thing. It's like there's so many different things that you can do with it. So try each and every single one of them. Even if it means like dropping the dream thing that you want, you might end up actually finding the dream thing that you want. So I don't know. Just be happy. Do what you want.
And one thing I want to touch upon before we do take off is I want to touch upon when I first got out of college. I actually thought about going into kind of the industry that you're in, because I was looking for jobs and I couldn't find anything in an arts field, but I really wanted to do something arts related. So I looked into the group that does the caricatures at like SeaWorld and the zoo. I used to think that it was like independent contractors, but it's not. It was like, I think is it called Cayman or Common, or I don't know how it's pronounced, but it's like this company that you essentially work under. And so you go through their training process, but like you go there and you make minimum wage. Essentially, you're not even a zoo employee. You're not a SeaWorld employee. And so I just had to say like, okay, this doesn't work for me. And that kind of goes back to, you mentioned somebody that's very successful working for Disney. Now, when I was a kid, I used to love Bill Peet, looked at all of his books. I was like, I want to be an illustrator for Disney. But then as I got older, I heard the fucking horror stories of working for Disney, of the long hours, the low pay. You can create these characters that are like these mega characters that are beloved by millions and millions of people, and you don't get a lick of fucking credit for the work that you do.
Yep. So that's why it's like, that goes back full circle, where people are like looking at things so highly, like with like God in their eyes, of like, oh, everyone who works here, everyone on YouTube, everyone who succeeds, everyone who sells a house, everyone who, they're all perfect and I need to be that. And it's like, even the people who are in the industry doing that, even they're like, what am I doing? Like, this is not what I want. I heard, I think I heard a podcast for Alex Hirsch. I think he's the guy, he's a creative Gravity Falls. And he said that when he was going through it, like, I think it was Disney actually, and a guy that he went to school with, who was like an amazing artist, was all he was doing was like erasing messed up lines on the animation. Like, he wasn't drawing it. He wasn't making his own stuff. Like, he was just erasing lines working at Disney. So it's that's why it's like, you could be getting what you want. That's why they say be careful what you wish for, because it's like you could get what you want, but then you're like, well, now I'm only doing this, but I'm here, this is what I wanted, so I guess this is what I should take. And it's like, it's fine. It's fine if it doesn't work out. So
that would suck, being a line eraser for Disney.
Some people like it. If you're happy with it, cool.
Yeah. If you're like, but I mean, I think we do have these ideas of what a dream actually is. And then, like you said, we get into that space and we realize, oh, it's not quite what I thought. It's not all the glamour and the glitz. There's another side to it. But it's also the reality of success. Like, for any success that I have, there is a tremendous amount of hustle and struggle and sacrifice. Like, I don't do relationships. I don't really do family. I don't do friends. I don't go out to bars. I don't do anything like that. I don't spend money on anything. All my money and all my time and energy goes into this dream, because this dream is my purpose. This is what I was put here to do. But I give it everything. But that's also why when it feels like it's falling short, or when it's difficult, it hurts, because like you give it everything.
I do think, I mean, this might just be a personal thing, but I do think every good thing needs some sort of sacrifice.
Yes.
So if to be happy, it means like getting rid of that job, or, you know, maybe having a near-death experience, like my boyfriend had one of those, and because of that's who he is now. Maybe it means not talking to someone anymore. Maybe it means like quitting that job, or maybe it means, so it's, I do think everything needs some sort of sacrifice in order for you to really see something. There was an artist that came to my art school, and I forget her name, and I've been thinking about it the whole time, but she stopped paying bills until her water was shut off and her electricity was shut off, so that she can live in that, like, I have no excuse now. I have to do my art. And then she was just making it work while doing her art. And now she's an absolutely successful, like fine artist, because she took that sacrifice of like, I'm just going to get rid of everything. I got rid of social media So, I mean, like, obviously I'm still on it, but like, I don't have it on my devices anymore. So if I want to go on Facebook, I have to use my computer for that kind of stuff to get me not distracted so that I can work on my stuff and then post on a schedule type of thing. So I do think everything needs some sort of sacrifice. And every artist, I would say, has 2 of 3 things. Some of them very rarely have all 3. And they are these 3 things. The talent. Are you provide what they're asking for? The personality. Are you fun to work with? Are you a good person to work with? And lastly, the deadlines. Can you get things done on time? Everyone has 2 of those 3 things. I'm terrible at deadlines, so that's my thing. But sometimes it'll fluctuate. There are times where I'm like, I'm not a good artist for that job, but I can do the other 2 things type of thing. So it's, if you are an artist starting out, think about which one of those you are and try to work on that and try to make your stuff correlate with that type of thing. So yeah, that's what I learned.
We're close to the end of the time. Aubrey, can you tell everyone where to, man, it seems from the comments here, we got a web comic, you got a new comic, you got to basically, people can see you in person. Try not to be stocky if you do go in person, but all the places they can find you.
Ooh, so like I said before, my name is Aubrianna Robinson, and then nickname Aubrey. So then my username is Aubrey in blob form, which is Blobbery. If you just type that in, if you type in my name, Aubrianna Robinson, and if you type in Blobbery in Google, I should be the only one that comes up as an artist, like artist Aubrianna Robinson, under that name and that username. So you can find everything. I have a link tree. It's even in the bio of my Instagram. It's aubriannarobinson.com. That's where everything is. So it's like you can find me everywhere, and I'm going to actually use everywhere the best that I can. So I'm starting like streaming, and I'm starting YouTube animations, which is what I was just working on before coming on here, because I want to try it just to see if I can do it. And then if it works, cool. And if it doesn't, cool. So that's what
I'm actually curious for me. So is your YouTube Blobbery?
I think it is. Yeah. I think if you type in Blobbery, it should be that. I don't know. YouTube, like when I click on my person, that like it gave me a username that's like Blobbery6475 or something like that. So I should just be there. Like it should be that.
Okay, I'll try to make sure that I update the description to tag you, but I definitely want to get you on one of my Instagram Q&A feeds because you've been so much fun here. So you and I will talk about that. We'll find a way to make that work, but we will definitely have you back because you're great. And I feel like you and I can find ways to help each other and to help other artists. So you and I will be talking, preferably when I have a little less pre-workout on me and perhaps I'm a little more clothed. But yes, I think that there's a lot that we can do. And I think that you've been fantastic. And I appreciate you doing the logo. I feel like it is a great representation of the show. And I love it. And I think that that's just a reminder because I feel this way all the time too. Sometimes I'll finish a piece and I'll be like, oh, you know, this is okay, but like, I don't really, but somebody else may just love it. And I love it. So thank you for the podcast logo. And thank you to our sponsors, Edelman Fine Art and Canvy. Canvy is my favorite staging app. So if you're an artist that does fine art, you want to stage your art, show what it looks like in different environments, try Canvy at canvy.com/Carini. So you can try Canvy Pro for 30 days, absolutely free. I love it. I don't endorse things that I don't like. I use it on the regular. It's how I promote my art. So check it out.
Nice.
Thank you guys for listening. Please subscribe. We usually release this on Monday. The live feed is usually on Thursday. I know if you're watching us live right now, it's Friday, but usually it's Thursday. So things do change, but most of the time live on Thursday, and the audio podcast goes out on Monday. So please subscribe, please share, and go to Balboa Park. Go get a painting from Aubrey. Or not. But if you do go, give her more than what, $20, $30. How much, Aubrey, are you shooting for?
Whatever.
50, 100?
Somebody drop 100. And while you're at it, drop 100 if you see me running shirtless. I'll let you put it in the shorts.
Oh gosh.
My gosh.
All right, guys. On that note, see you later.